But we were waiting for Srila Prabhupada, we were having kirtan, and then suddenly Prabhupada just appeared there. It's like he was like a genie out the lamp, I guess. No, it wasn't only me, because I was with Nanda, and he was chanting and playing mridanga, Nanda Maharaja. And he also he said, Prabhupada, he just suddenly, Prabhupada, he just seemed to stop. And Prabhupada was standing there, very aristocratic, and then he was just looking at all the devotees there, one after another, and then he looked at me, the new bhakta, and then he just looked straight through me, and as if to say, I'm looking for you, I'm coming for you, not what you think you are, all these identities you have. I'm seeing you as Krishna's devotee, I'm coming to get you. And I was thinking that, I'm standing here in Calcutta airport, I'm completely naked, the whole world is watching me. I've got nothing to hide from this man. He's seeing me. So then everybody had a garland to give. They went forward and offered their garlands. So I went forward to offer my garland also, and I had a little brass bowl with rose petals. They said, when Prabhupada comes, you should throw these petals before him. Anyway, I went and I offered the garland to Prabhupada, and the little bowl I still had in my hand, it just touched Prabhupada here, and it made a little ringing sound. It was just ding, but I was so close to Prabhupada at that time, in his eyes, I was looking at his eyes, but it didn't even blink. When something comes close to your eyes, so what to speak of touching your eye, but Prabhupada, it didn't blink, it didn't even waver. And I thought, wow, this person is completely peaceful, completely tranquil. My ideas of spiritual life was, that complete peace, harmony. You walk into the water, no ripples coming out and things like that. And this was that Prabhupada. What I'm looking for, what I'm aspiring for, what I think is spiritual, Prabhupada's got it. He's got it. He's got what I was searching for. And a lot of other devotees had that same experience when I spoke to them. What they were looking for, they saw it in Prabhupada. I don't think it was Prabhupada manifesting it, but I think Krishna was manifesting it. Here, what you're looking for, you found in my devotee. And then I paid my obeisances, and when I got up, no one was there. I don't know how long I've been paying my obeisances. Anyway, by the time we got back to Calcutta, Prabhupada was already in the temple. He was giving his lecture, arrival address lecture. So I thought, now I'm going to hear Prabhupada. I've been reading these books, and now I'm going to actually see him. So I sat down, and he already started his lecture, so the first thing I kind of heard him say was, so do not try to see God. And I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're all out there seeking, and I thought that was the whole idea. We come to look for God. I meet the greatest saint I've met so far, and he's saying, do not try to see God. But then he said, but you act in such a way that God will see you by a performance of your devotional bhakti. So that was the first impression of meeting Prabhupada. At that time, we were having a Pandal program in Deshapriya Park in Calcutta. It was during that period. And so then after the program, Prabhupada would generally be invited to someone, either a relative of his, because they knew him, or a local person. But now Prabhupada was the hero. He came back with his Western disciples. And so we all went to this house. It's one of those typical Bengali community houses, with the open space in the courtyard in the middle, and everyone was there, all the noise and all the kids, and Prabhupada was kind of completely relaxed, and all the commotion, everyone was coming in and settling down. Prabhupada was just sitting down there relaxed. All the kids and everything playing around the low. And Prabhupada was kind of just getting settled. And I was in the room, and I was packed up, and I was sitting up the back wall. I was sitting next to Jadaba's wife, Vishaka Devi. She was Jean at that time. And Jadabai got initiated at the same time. He was John, right? Yeah. And but she didn't get initiated at that time. She got a bit later. But anyway, I was sitting next to her and talking to her, about Krishna consciousness and how great it is, and Prabhupada and things like that. And I was just brand new. I didn't know, in India especially, there wasn't such much emphasis on separation of the men and women. We didn't know at that time, did we, in those days? So anyway, I was rapping away with Vishaka, and then Prabhupada, by the time he kind of got settled, and then he was, and then he started looking, and I could see he was kind of straining it a bit, and he was looking at me, and I thought, am I doing? And he had like a kind of a stern look on his face, and I thought, am I doing something wrong? And I thought, well, I guess I am. I've just got initiated. I got this saffron cloth on, and I'm talking to this Mataji, and there's all the family members around. That's their culture. They know the culture very well, and and I think Prabhupada was, and I said, I think I better finish talking. I kind of moved away from Vishaka Devi, but I think Prabhupada was showing a little bit of his disapproval that I was doing. But we were pretty innocent in those days. At my initiation, I remember 3 of the 4 regs, and then I thought, what was the last one? And I kind of completely slipped my mind, and I said, intoxication, Prabhupada. Because that was the only thing I was into, actually. I've been in India kind of, so there was none of the, I was trying to follow everything, but we were following the sadhus and everything in India, and they were smoking and everything like that, so intoxication. I was surprised. I said all the 3, but the one I was not doing at that time. And I looked at Prabhupada and smiled. And oh, no intoxication. He said, okay, good. Another thing Prabhupada didn't like was the mosquitoes. And there were millions and millions of mosquitoes, and we were the only light around. We were on the bank of the Ganga. There was no other lights. As soon as we lit the kerosene lamp or candles, and immediately all the bugs and mosquitoes would come. So we used to burn the cow dung to make smoke. And Prabhupada, he quite liked it. We were all crying and everything, stinging, but Prabhupada, it didn't affect him. And he quite liked it. He said, my Guru Maharaj used to have his chapatis cooked on this gobar, this cow dung patties. Gives them a very nice flavor. But he would complain sometimes. He said, I just put my hand under the mosquito net to get my books, and immediately they're coming biting my hand. So Prabhupada was completely unfazed in Mayapur. There was no running water, there was no electricity or anything. He had a jute stick toilet, a hole in the ground with some jute sticks around it. But still he followed exactly the same schedule. He couldn't use his dictaphone machine because there's no electricity. So he had his typewriter under his mosquito net on his bed, and he would type out with his 2 fingers. The purpose was unfazed. He got up at the same time. He went out for a morning walk, come back and greet the deities. Even though there's no facility, it didn't faze him. He was just his old schedule. He kept maintained perfectly. Another time I was in the Bhajan Kutir of Prabhupada, and probably an owl or a bowl, probably a bowler. These are different. What do you say? These were different groups of spiritualists or so-called spiritualists. Coming, Gauranga Bhaktas, but the upper sampradaya, what we call upper sampradaya. So there were quite a few of these different groups who were often bringing Radha and Krishna pastime down to a mundane level. And so anyway, on this one, what they call the ekatara, it's 1 string, 1 wire, and 1 gourd, and they make a little instrument. So he come in, and we could hear him, and he was ding dong, Om Jai Jagadish Hare Om Hari Om Jai Jagadish, playing his ekatara. And Prabhupada said, you know that song? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. I learned it when I was in Kashmir. He said, Mayavad, go and stop him. And I thought, well, as a new devotee, I thought, wow, as a sadhu, you don't, you don't tell sadhu to stop chanting. But I had to do it because Prabhupada was told me to do it. But anyway, by the time I walked out, he had already started leaving and gone. But Prabhupada said that in this temple, the TOVP, he said, no Mayavadis can come in. No Mayavadis, no Langis. Langi means just a piece of cloth wrapped around, kind of this kind of casual wear the Hindus usually wear it when they go home and they take it. No Langis and no atheists. They cannot come in, he said. No Mayavadis, no Langis, and no atheists. So this was a Mayavadi, he told me, tell him to stop. 1971, and in Bhajan Kutir, and Prabhupada was sitting on the veranda with one of his godbrothers, and I just finishing worshipping the deities, Radha Madhava, who were there. And I took the Chanamrita bowl over to Prabhupada and I said, Chanamrita, Srila Prabhupada? And he just tilted back his head and he opened his mouth. And he let me pour the Chanamrita in. It's, like he was my God, he was my father, he was everything for me. And then he's acting like a little kid, like dependent. Prabhupada would always come out with these different, you get different pictures of Prabhupada, he's different. And then his godbrother did the same and put the Chanamrita in his mouth. But the very first time I gave him Chanamrita, I offered him, and then my hand began to shake uncontrollably. I'd never done that before. He'd never done it since then, but I was looking at my hand and looking at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was just smiling, looking at it. And then I stopped, I was able to give him. But I took it as, Maya, this is the first, a direct service I'm giving to Krishna's pure devotee, and Maya's, this is it. It is the beginning of the end. You've finished. Do a little bit of service for Prabhupada. In Bhajan Kutir again, in 1972, Prabhupada gave me an instruction. And he was talking with his managers, and I was just sitting there. And then he said to the manager, he said, this Jananivas is an ordinary person. He has to have some help. He cannot do everything. Because I was just one pujari then, so I had to do everything morning till night. There was hardly any devotees there. So, but I loved it. But anyway, Prabhupada was considerate. He should have some help. He cannot do everything. Then he said, so you should train up pujaris. I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And I didn't really know what it meant. And then later on he was talking again, and then again he turned to me and said, so train up pujaris. I said, yeah, I think I would have forgotten, definitely, because we didn't really have any system at that time. I mean, there was nothing written down, or all these different mantras we didn't have. So I think I would have forgotten. But anyway, we were leaving Bhajan Kutir, and I had one foot inside and one foot outside, and I heard, train up pujaris. You hear me? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. So good. You get instruction 3 times, like confirmation, yeah. Then Bhavananda, who was the president, Prabhupada Prabhu was the president. And so on the arrival of Srila Prabhupada, Bhavananda said, Srila Prabhupada, the devotees, they're taking this Kajur rasa. This is the rasa, the sap from the palm tree. They have date palm trees, and they cut the palm, and then the juice comes out. Then they boil it down, and it turns into molasses, gur. But you can also drink it as juice. They make it hot and they drink it as juice. But if it's left too long, especially after sunrise, it starts to ferment and becomes alcoholic. So Bhavananda was complaining to Prabhupada. They're taking this Kajuras, which is very strong, Srila Prabhupada, just like whiskey, and the devotees are drinking it. Well, Prabhupada said, oh, really? So he didn't say anything more at the time. So then, the next morning we were with darshan with Prabhupada, and one devotee named Dvijahari Das. He was a Marine, kind of a tough guy. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, he said, sometimes me and the boys, we take a japa walk down the road and we go where they're making this kajur ras, and we take a few. It was really funny the way he said it. It was like, me and the boys, we go down the bar and we knock a few back. I was laughing the way he was explaining to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was hearing and he's going, oh, really, really? And he asked Prabhupada, it's really, really good. So now Prabhupada had to make a decision. He heard the management side of it, how he was trying to stop. And then he had the devotees out there. Some of the devotees were liking it. So Prabhupada had to make a decision. So the next morning we went in there for darshan with Prabhupada. And then Shruti Kirti Prabhu came in with a glass of kajuras. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, would you like some kajuras? Prabhupada, he looked at it and Prabhupada knew what it was. He's a Bengali. Everyone knows in Bengal, kajur. It's quite nice. Nice. Bring me another glass, empty glass. Shruti Gita poured him another glass. He poured because it was his glass. He poured it into the other glass. He gave it to Shruti. He said, pass it around to all the devotees so they can drink. So all the devotees were sitting around drinking kajur. Bhavananda was sitting there. He was fuming. couldn't get his way done. He was fuming. But all of the devotees. So we see how Prabhupada would adjust things according to time and circumstances. Now this was 1973, and we just completed the Lotus building in Mayapur. And I went to Prabhupada's room and asked him a question. I said, can Lord Chaitanya wear a peacock feather? And he said, why not? He is Krishna. I said, only some of the Gaudiya Math people, they're complaining. They're saying Lord Chaitanya shouldn't wear a peacock feather. And Srila Prabhupada became very disappointed, and he just looked down. He didn't say anything else. No, I took it to mean that, my godbrothers, they always criticize me. In fact, he wrote one letter, how can they help us? And they can only hinder us. It was an open letter. That was my understanding, that Prabhupada was saying, why are they, picking on little points like this? Why don't they see what he's done? He's picked us out of the gutter of material existence, and we're shaved heads, we have tilak, we have dhotis, and we're chanting Krishna's name. Look at what he's done, rather than trying to find a little detailed fault here and there. That's the way I took Prabhupada's mood. So, anyway, since that time, I found many evidences that Lord Chaitanya, where it describes Lord Chaitanya with a peacock feather. In the Gauranga Mahimara for the way to Chara, he gives a description of Mahaprabhu and meditation and description. And he says he has his Shikipucha, the peacock feather in his hair, and another one over his ear also. And then there's another, in the Nitya Leela of Mahaprabhu, when after breakfast, he goes with his friends in Sankirtan, and they see all the white cows and the peacocks and everything, and he gets into he corresponds with Vrindavan Leela, when Krishna goes out with the cows in the morning. So he gets into his cowboy mood. So he starts calling out all of his cows, Shamale, Dubale, Gange, Jamune, come on. And all the devotees, what's happening? Oh, he's in a mood of Krishna in Vrindavan. So they all assume the same mood as him. They'll pick up sticks and start twirling them around like cowboys doing, hey, 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 let's go up to Govardhan. Nityananda Prabhu pretends to have a buffalo horn. Govardhan, hey. And in that description also is Lord Chaitanya wears a peacock feather. And also Prabhupada asked Malati Mataji one time that, why Lord Chaitanya is not wearing a peacock feather? She said, oh, he should be wearing? He said, yes. And she said, what about Nityananda Prabhu? He said, Prabhupada said, sometimes he can wear, but Lord Chaitanya should always wear. Anyway, so we have Guru Sadhu Shastra. It became a little bit controversial. But Prabhupada did ask me one time, this was in 1973 or 4, he said, how are you all worshipping the deity? So I gave him an step-by-step explanation. And now we're undressing the deities, and we bathe the deities with tilak, some lemon juice, and we polish them. Then we bathe them, we clean them, we bathe them with water. And he said, "What mantras are you using?" I said, "Well, we chant Chintamani prayers, Prabhupada." Oh. I said, "Also we chant Brahma Gayatri, but first thing we would do, we just chant the Brahma Gayatri before we..." Oh, Prabhupada said, "Oh, Brahma Gayatri, Vedic. Om is there, very good. Vedic mantra, Om is there, very good." So that was it. We were just chanting the Brahma Gayatri and Chintamani prayers and bathing. Anyway, then I said, then we dry the deity. And then Prabhupada said, yes, then at that time, you should offer tulsi leaves to Krishna's feet. Which you don't find in other Archana Padhatis. The offering of the tulsi generally comes after the bathing, the dressing, the ornamentation, offering scents and things like that. Then you offer flowers and tulsi at that time. But Prabhupada said, at that time you offer tulsi leaves. When Krishna you just bathed and dried Krishna. And I took it to mean, like, no, Krishna's just been bathed and dried, and he's naked. So the first offering, what is the first offering? Like Tulsi, Bhakti Devi. If we offer Tulsi, then Krishna's very satisfied. I took it like that, and it may be correct, that understanding. Because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was installing some deities in one of his Gaudiya Math. And his disciples were doing all the preparations, and they bathed the deities and everything, got everything ready, dressed the deities and tulsis and flowers. And then they called in their Guru Maharaj to come and do the Pram Pratishta, which is the official calling of the Lord. Generally the Acharya comes and he calls the Lord of his heart, who is the Istadeva, generally of the Sampradaya. He calls the deity from his heart into the deity. So this is called the Pram Pratishta, the official installation, calling of the Lord. So they say, Guru Maharaj, you can come in and do the Pram Pratishta. So he came in to perform the Pram Pratishta, and he looked and he saw the tulsi leaves on Krishna's feet. And he said, "Oh, now I have nothing to do." Which indicated he thought that also that tulsi was like the prime offering of for Krishna, more important than even the Pram Pratishta. I guess it has something to do with bhakti. 1972 also, then one devotee brought some Govardhan Shilas from Govardhan Hill to Mayapur. So Chitananda said, "Oh, great! We always wanted to worship Govardhan Shilas." So we wrote to Prabhupada about, we have Govardhan Shilas, can we put them on the altar? And Prabhupada wrote back immediately, "Take them back to Vrindavan." And as far as my research work, that there was no Govardhan Shilas being worshipped in any temple during Srila Prabhupada's time. And there was another devotee in America, he wrote to Srila Prabhupada, said, "I have Govardhan Shila, can I put them on the altar?" And Prabhupada said, "When I come there, I will see." And when he came, he said, "No, don't put them on the altar." But now they're everywhere. But anyway, Prabhupada told us to take it back to Vrindavan. Another time, probably 1973 again, and Srila Prabhupada told me, he said, "You can offer prayers in your own language if you like." I used to chant the prayers in the morning when we used to chant the Guru Vastakam, and what else we chant? Chintamani or something like that. Maybe Udalayo Uruno. And I would recite the translations, because Chutananda was there, he had just translated all those books. And I would have to recite them. I don't know if it was anything to do with that or not, but I was kind of the reciter during those few years. But Prabhupada told me, you can say your prayers to the deities in English, which, according to the Shastra, you can only speak to the deity in Devanagari, in Sanskrit language. So Prabhupada said, you can speak in your own language. And there is in the Bhavishya Purana, Bhavasha means in the future. There's a Purana on the future, and it said that one saffron-clad man will come from India, and he will teach the Vedas in the language of the Malechas. So English is the language of the Malechas. And he will initiate with fire. So generally everyone offers, when they get the Gayatri mantras, generally as a samskar, it needs a fire sacrifice. Prabhupada used to use the sacrifice for first initiation also, which is not mentioned in the Vedas. It's for the Gayatri mantras. But for the holy name, Prabhupada also, and for giving first name, he gave the Hare Krishna mantra in the first name. He used the fire sacrifice, so that's something unique, which is spoken of in the Bhavasha Puranas. So that indicates Prabhupada. I was just going to perform the Raj Bhog Arati, and I just shaved, I had my head shaved, and I'd just taken a bath and put tilaks on, and I had my clean cloth on. And then the devotee came and Prabhupada wants to see you in his room, so I went upstairs to see Srila Prabhupada. And I came in, paid my obeisances. I said, "Did you want to see me, Srila Prabhupada?" And he was looking at me, sparkling eyes, very happy. And he was looking me up and down, and he was very happy. And I thought, is this looking at someone else? No. But I think it was just my appearance. I think Prabhupada thought, a few years ago we were rotting in the gutter, Look, now they were wearing tilaks and clean shaven. He seemed to be very, very pleased. So you can please your guru maybe just by your dress. Prabhupada never directly instructed us to worship Govardhan, but he said you should send back to Govardhan Hill. Whereas Shaligram Srila, he specifically says in his books that where temples have sufficient facility, they should start Shaligram worship. So Mayapur was the first temple that he instructed to start worshipping the Shaligram Srila. So he said, see if you can get one from some Srila from some friend. So then Jayapataka Maharaj, he had one Shaligram. So we went to Prabhupada's room, Jayapataka Maharaj, Bhavananda and myself. And I don't think Prabhupada knew we were coming even. But we went into his room and Jayapataka Maharaj said, we have the Shaligram, Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, he took the Shaligram and he touched to his head. And then Srila Prabhupada did a puja for the Shaligram Srila, right where he was, sitting on his desk with whatever was around him. And he didn't even get up from his seat. But he did a little puja for Shaligram. And he got his tilak, he had his tilak there, and his Archman cup was there, and he made some tilak paste, and he had a box of matches, and he took a matchstick and he painted a little face on Shaligram, little eyes, little nose, little mouth, little M-shaped mouth, each seagull-shaped mouth, and this little gopi dots. And Jayapataka Maharaj had some silk cloth from Shantipur, a very fine silk that they generally offer to Shaligrams. And Prabhupada folded it like a dhoti, and then he turned his tilak container upside down. It's like an egg cup shaped thing. So he put the dhoti, and then he put the Shaligrams, a perfect fit. And then he folded the other piece of cloth and like a little chadar. So he had his throne and he had his dress and everything with tilak and a little face. At Prabhupada, he just sat down, he just whatever was there, he did this little puja. And he was talking. Then Prabhupada took his garland off, his own garland, and he put it around the Shaligram. And he was talking, saying different things. He said in the month of Vaishak, that month has just passed just now, month of Vaishak in summertime, he says you should do what we call the Shaligram, Tulsi Shaligram Jaldan in the Vaishnava calendar, and they drip water on Shaligram and also on Tulsi Devi, in the hot countries at least. It's a cooling pastime. So he says you can perform this pastime with Shaligram. And he said, you can pick the tulsi leaves in the morning after sunrise. And he said, you have a piece of cloth, damp cloth, and you put the tulsi leaves, and then you put another piece of damp cloth on top. He said, like this, the tulsi leaves will stay fresh whole day. Because it may be a Vrindavan tip, because in Vrindavan it gets so hot there, the tulsi leaves will shrivel up if you just leave them there. So I think it was a Vrindavan tip. You put it in 2 pieces of wet cloth. And he says the Brahmanas, they carry the shaligram around. They have a little box or in a bag on their neck or something. And he said they go around to different places, and then they open up the box and then do some mantras, and then again they put to sleep, and then again they go to another place, and then they open and give mantra, again sleeping. He said, this is shaligram puja, mantra, sleeping, mantra, sleeping. He started to laugh, mantra, sleeping. So then we had the shaligram on the altar, but nobody knew what shaligram was, because there was hardly any Indian devotees coming forward at that time. They were very shy. Of course, we were CIA and all things like that at that time, so Sahib Mat, CIA. So the Western devotees didn't know what shaligram was. Who was that? Is it Lord Jagannath? I said, yeah, I guess so. I guess he's the Lord of the universe. I mean, he's black and he's got these white eyes. And few people know Gopal Krishna Brahmachari at that time. He was there. And then the devotees, some Indian devotees said, this is Narayana Shila, Krishna Shila. So I was getting confused. And Shaligram, Krishna and Narayana. So I went to ask Prabhupada, and I went to his room and I said, Srila Prabhupada, may I ask you a question? He said, yes. I said, some people say that Shaligram is Krishna and some people say it's Narayana. And Prabhupada said, forget some say. Heavy tone. I kind of bowed my way out because the way he said it. I think he said it, and Prabhupada would often say when the devotees were talking, he would say, you know what they say, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada, they say, who is that? What is that authority? He says, they say, what is that authority? I think he was in that mood. The Prabhupada said, forget some say. So I didn't pursue it anymore. I bowed my way out. But anyway, 2 days later, he sent me a message, and he said, tell the Pujari he should offer the flute to Shaligram. So he's indicating we want to worship as Krishna. So another service I had for Srila Prabhupada, every evening I would take the frankincense round. We'd have a pot with coals, charcoal and frankincense. And every night I would go, just as before sunset, I would go in Prabhupada's room. First I'd offer it to the deities, and then I go to Prabhupada's room, and I had a fan, one of those tall leaf fans, and I would make the frankincense into powder so it gives much more smoke. And I would go around and I would put smoke in Prabhupada's room. And then Prabhupada was saying, give more, it become very thick. And I said, shall I open the windows and doors, Prabhupada? No, he said, it's okay. I should turn on the fan. No, it's okay. He liked it. It got very, very thick. You could hardly see anything. See, generally the system, in Bengal at least, you put the smoke in the room, and then you turn the lights off, you open the doors and the windows, and you put the fan on, and immediately all the mosquitoes, they fly straight out. They don't like that smoke. But Prabhupada, he always said, no, keep the windows closed, keep the doors closed. So this was our service every day. And of course the devotees were there because it was during the festival times. And they would be having darshan with Srila Prabhupada, and it was my service. So I just come in and knocked on the door and started filling the room up with smoke, and it was new to a lot of people, and they were all coughing and things like that. And some would have to leave. Well, kind of psychological, I think. Prabhupada he didn't disturb him at all. So anyway, it became a daily service for Prabhupada. Then one time, there was 4 Shastrijis who studied the Rig Veda in Nepal, and they met Prabhupada and they became very attracted to him, and they started to follow him for a while. One even got initiated. I think maybe his name is Gangaram. So he said to Srila Prabhupada, "Can I teach your pujaris some non-fruitive mantras?" And Prabhupada said, "Okay, you can do that." So he taught us the Purusha Shukta. This is the first time we've ever heard of the famous Purusha Shukta mantra, which is all the Vedas have the chant the Purusha Shukta mantra. So he taught us this mantra. So then we would chant this mantra, and I would take the smoke, and he would have conch shell, blowing conch shell. Another devotee had a bell. Another devotee had a cup of water. So we had a little group of us, and we go around ringing the bell, blowing the conch shell, and chanting Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Purusha Shukta mantra. Became known as the Bhuta Puja, or the Ghost Puja. Somehow or another, everyone says, "Oh, it's the Ghost Puja." But anyway, this Shastriji, he could blow 2 conch shells also at the same time. But he could blow the conch shell, woo, and then he would keep air in his cheeks. And then when he exhausted the air in his belly, he would breathe in, and simultaneously he would let the air of his cheeks out. So there was a constant sound coming. It didn't stop. So he was woo, 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 woo. It didn't stop. He could do it. So anyway, then we went to Prabhupada's room one time. The devotees were there, and we knock on the door, and then suddenly Prabhupada's giving darshan to all the devotees. So the door opens up, and all the smoke bellows out, and the bell is ringing. And he's blowing his conch, and he doesn't stop. And Prabhupada's, he's looking and waiting, and and it's going on and on and on. And then Prabhupada realizes, it's not going to stop. So, "Hey, buzz, 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 buzz." Stop. Prabhupada laughed and laughed. But anyway, the last time when Prabhupada was in 1977, and I took the smoke into Prabhupada's room, and I used to start under his desk. I used to blow the smoke under his desk and then go all around the rooms. So I was sitting by his side, and I was just finding this. And Prabhupada was just sitting there. He was alone. There was no one else at that time. And he was chanting on his japa very softly. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. You could hear Prabhupada's beads ticking when they used to, somehow or another, they used to rattle in it. Hare Krishna. And then he opened his eyes and he looked up at me and he said, "This gives such an atmosphere of spiritual understanding. This is so nice. So nice. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." And then we understood after all those years, it wasn't really anything to do with the mosquitoes. Prabhupada just still had the atmosphere it created, such an atmosphere of spiritual understanding. That's what we thought it was to get rid of mosquitoes. But that was the last time he was there in Mayapur. Prabhupada, he was presenting the absolute truth. I immediately accepted. Just everything felt right. It was that. Here is that person, and he's got the answers to the question, and he's taken us. We were all in those days. We were seeking that. We shall overcome. What is the promised land? Prabhupada came and told us what is the promise. Here is Krishna, his supreme. Here is the promised land. Goloka. We're all going back home, back to Godhead. I completely accepted it. This is what we were searching for in Prabhupada. No one else was giving, And Prabhupada gave us seva. This was his main thing. He came to give seva. No one else gives service. Because people don't like to hear, "I'm the servant." They lose all their followers if they tell everyone you're servants. But Prabhupada was, he's the only one. So I immediately accepted, and I thought, when I was reading Prabhupada's book, it kept jumping out all the time. Devotional service, devotional service. You're the eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Lord. You're his servant. And I thought, well, I'll try it for 2 years. I'll just absorb myself in service. This is what kept jumping out in Prabhupada's books. And then after 2 years, I'll reconsider and see whether I want to stay or I want to go or not. But, everything felt so good and right. So, Krishna fulfilled my desire and he sent me to Mayapur and I had to be fully absorbed. 24 hours a day, I had no option. There's no other pujaris. So I was completely absorbed. And then, like 2 years passed, and 20 years, and 40 years. And I thought, gee, yeah, I was supposed to have a reassessment after 2 years. I forgot all about that. But that's how timeless the process of devotional service is. Yeah, that Prabhupada, he engages in the service of Krishna. What we're looking for that seva. But there were so many aspects of Prabhupada, wasn't there? Sometimes he was just like a loving father, old man, he really friendly and loving. Sometimes he's very, very grave. One time I was sitting with Satsvarup Maharaj in his room. Prabhupada was walking into his bedroom and walking back again, chanting very, very grave, slowly. And then he walked up to us and he stopped and we were sitting. He's just, this chanting of the Maha Mantra is the sound incarnation of the Absolute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh boy, so grave. And other times he's like a loving old man. But one thing, when Prabhupada used to do the Srimad Bhagavatam class, and I was generally sitting the other side of the end of the temple giving Chanamrita by the deities. And they would offer him chandan, and he always accepted a lot of chandan on his forehead. So by the time it dried, where I was sitting, it looked like Prabhupada had a lot of white hair. And he looked really, really so distinguished, and he was sitting up there lecturing on his... And I thought, he's so... I can't explain what... I can't really put it into words what I'm seeing. Then just after that, a devotee came up and told me, he said, oh, I read that the spiritual master is the sum total of all the demigods. I thought, yeah, well, that was it. And then when I saw Prabhupada like that, yeah, that's Prabhupada. He is sum total of all the demigods. He's quite confident to sit on that Vyasa and preach the absolute truth to all the demigods and all the sages. He's such a... He looked so refined and such a distinguished gentleman. He looked like he had grey hair and just sitting up.
Jananivas